Okay, this is the Marvel House Style panel.
Then he had the brothers at Marvel. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Brothers with an A, not an ER.
Is that BAM?
Huh?
Brothers at Marvel, BAM? You just called it short.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay, let's get shirts tomorrow. We have them at our booths.
Shout out to General Live.
Brian can design a shirt. He can design it. He'll have it designed in about, by the end of this panel. He'll have it.
Okay, this is the Marvel House Style panel, starting at my right, your left. Yep, Sanford Green.
You like to hear
He's currently drawing Power Man and Iron Fist. And then next up, you have Brian Stelfreeze. He paints the covers for Black Panther and beautifully draws the interiors. And he's drawn numerous things over the years, and he's probably been to HeroesCon more than all of us, even though he's only about 25 right now.
In fact, I've been to HeroesCon probably longer than some of you have been.
Let that sink in.
And then at the end here is Chris Visions. He's recently drawn Spider-Gwen and the Scarlet Witch. And he recently did a creator-owned series called Dead Letters, which is, I believe, on sale still downstairs, but you might want to get it before it sells out. So, okay, it says we're supposed to talk about how they got here. So, but most of these people are actually local from here. They got from Virginia. Some people graduated from South Carolina. Some people drive up from Atlanta or parts of unknown. And,
That's me, parts of unknown.
But let's talk about their current books and kind of how they got into them and it became something that they wanted to do, but something that you obviously responded to in reading the book. So let's start with Brian here with Black Panther. He's done many Marvel books in the past, including a great Domino miniseries that's really worth tracking down. But let's talk about Black Panther. 2 issues are out, and you got one coming up at the end of the month, I believe. So we'll talk about how were you approached to do the book?
Well, I started my career off working on Batman. So what I do is I have a tendency to work on the smaller books. I actually don't like working on big books like X-Men and some of the bigger stuff at DC. Mainly because you have more creative control if you're working on second, third tier characters. And when I was approached to do Black Panther was a second, third tier character. And I thought, yeah, I'll work on that little book. And boy, was I surprised.
His first issue sold over 300,000 copies in print. Who knows how many digitally? They won't even release those numbers.
And I'm going to sign all of them at this convention.
Yeah. He does have a long line at his table, but it's well worth the wait. Like as you can see him painting. Like I saw him drawing in a treasure chest. I don't understand that quite, but
He does that every year, and it just makes me sick. Every year, he just shows off doing that. It's incredible, but yeah.
and he also drew the official HeroesCon t-shirt this year. So it'll be a collector's item real soon, so you might want to pick that up. Have it many sizes, and I'm sure Brian has signed all of them.
Yes. Every t-shirt.
Yeah.
Every t-shirt signed.
And if they sell out, he's gonna make some Black Panther pants next year. And he's gonna work his way through it.
Yeah, they'll be sort of like hammer pants.
Bringing them back. So much for the leggings. I was thinking more of the leggings. That's what you're talking about. He goes the opposite. The total opposite direction.
Yeah. I'll work on that right now.
Now we'll go down to the very end. Chris Visions. He's jumped around to a couple books at Marvel.
Yeah.
And he's probably got a couple more that he can't talk about, but we're gonna put him on the spot and ask him.
Wasn't me.
Come on.
It was that? Sorry. We're having our own conversation.
Well, lean forward. Let's talk about it.
See, that's why I want to be down there, because I feel left out. I can't talk to my brothers. Like, hey, what's up, hey?
Yeah, I did.
saw that Chris Vision did the Vision
Does anybody have the vision?
on the poster.
He did this. I saw that. I went. He said, "This is Chris," and then had the vision underneath. Genius. Okay. I see that. He just dropped the mic right on.
Yeah. I'm gonna drop this one. Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. What was her?
Let's just talk, since Marvel's in the title here, we're talking about Vision, which you haven't drawn yet, that we can talk about, right?
Yeah. No, I can't say anything right now, but yeah, they've had me jumping around a little bit. Previously, I was working on a book called Dead Letters with Boom Studios. I love you if you've read it. Thank you so much. I see you. So once we finished that up, Marvel came and knocked on my door. Started doing some covers. So I did a Power Man Iron Fist cover. I did a Star-Lord cover. Did an 8-pager, or not 8-pager. I did an issue for Scarlet Witch, 8-pager for Spider-Gwen, and an issue of Spider-Gwen. So we're keeping it on it. I got a, I think I can say it.
See,
If not, don't get me in trouble. I have
or
a
bam.
Bam. I have a Black Panther variant coming too. Sweet. Yeah.
Bam!
Yeah, that's coming, and Punisher for Civil War II is on the way as well. Me and we're working on that right now. So,
Which is written by a friend of mine,
Chuck Brown.
Chuck Brown,
Yeah.
who's a BAM member. So
yeah,
I'm saying, I think that
keeping it tight.
yeah, it's just one of those things that Marvel's like, look, this whole progressive movement, we gotta be ahead of this thing. So let's just create this.
Hail Wakanda.
Next, I want to get over here to Sanford Green. He's currently doing Power Man and Iron Fist.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like you talk, like you've been in and around comics for a while now. You do some great, like I think I found you through your sketchbooks. But how did you come to Marvel for this project? Like I know you did a Secret Wars book, but now you're doing Power Man and Iron Fist. So how did it come about?
They asked me, and I said yes. I mean, there's no real magical moment. Well, I guess there was to some degree. That, working in this industry it's like a lot of people say, "Wow, how do you get a job at Marvel or DC or wherever?" And it's like being an actor or a musician. You go to Hollywood, you get bounced around, and you try to figure out whether you really want to do this anymore. And then all of a sudden, one day, the phone rings, and it's whoever, Warner Brothers or Disney or whatever. And it just takes off. There's no real magic timing. You can't technically plan it. You just have to be ready when they call. And to some degree, this was something that we talked to Power Man Iron Fist was something that they mentioned to me like 2 years prior. He said, there's a chance that, I'll just mention his name, Brian Michael Bendis came to me at New York Comic Con. He just said, hey, I heard through the grapevine that you're a fan of Luke Cage. I'm a big Luke Cage guy. I don't know if anyone knows, Brian Michael Bendis covets that guy. And, I'm like, this little Jewish, I was just like, wow, hey, I said, I'm cool with that. And he mentioned it to me then, and I said, dude, that's my character. I grew up with that character. And he said, cool, I'll keep that in mind. And that was it. So I forgot about it, and then went on about my business. And he came to me again, and then a few other people came to me at conventions. That's usually when it happens. It doesn't happen the other way anymore, where you go to, or you wait by your phone and they call you. It's usually at the big conventions, New York, San Diego. That's where it all really goes now. I hate to say it doesn't happen at HeroesCon anymore. It used to. A long time ago when I first came to HeroesCon, Image was huge,
But you do make the connections that make the connections.
Yeah, it's all, it kind of trickles down after a while. It's like even with, like Ryan, it's like, Brian, I consider him like, he's like a mentor. You know, he's someone that I saw as a young artist. Here's a man.
Well, thanks,
I'm talking about me. He's still young. I'm the perfect one. But I saw him, you know, when I was trying to get in. And here's a guy, you know, he had noticed he's black. And I'm like, wait a minute. He's doing Batman? I didn't know the name Brian Stelfreeze didn't, you know, compute to me that this is a black guy that was drawing Batman. And it just blew me away. And that kind of just, it made everything just seem okay after a while. It didn't seem so much of a mountainous, you know, type of thing to achieve. And that's what really kept me along. That was one of the things, many other things, but that was one of the catalysts to help me to stick this thing out. Because like I said, it's like being in, you know, being an actor or a musician or whatever. Just, you get bounced around a lot. You got to have very strong character. You can't take, you know, the first 2, 3 dozen no's and think, you know, I'm no good, I can't make it. Like even what Chris is doing, he's kind of the new way of getting in the industry, right? He did a create your own book first. Back then, you couldn't necessarily do a create your own book and necessarily get Marvel or DC coming after you. You know, if you did a create your own book, you probably was just stuck there. But that meant, at least in my era. So, you know, I'm just grateful to, you know, to being able to have this opportunity to be able to do it now. You know, and like I said, they came calling and I was ready to go. I'm sorry, I kind of went on a tangent.
That's really the game is just be the best you can be.
Right.
Just do, like, doesn't matter who you're working for, if you're working for some of the smaller companies, or if you're working for big companies, just be the best and put good work out there. And this industry is tiny. I mean, like, we all know each other.
Yeah.
And we all not only know each other, but we all know the new people coming in. So if you put something out there that's mediocre, no one pays attention to it. But if you put something out there that's awesome, you know, then everyone knows about it. It's kind of crazy because I mean, when Sanford's first issue of this came out, I was working on my first issue of Black Panther, and I was just like, oh no. I was like, oh no, I practically called up the editor and said, this is going to be late. This is going to be late.
You know, that made my whole weekend right there. Thank you.
I'm not going to let Sanford get away with that. And that's kind of what it takes. Just, you know,
Yeah.
all of us love doing this.
Yeah, like keep your passion up. Like remember why you're doing it. Don't let it be because like a paycheck or, you know, or oh man, I need this to make my career go further. Like a lot of my early years, like nobody knew who I was, or you know, I was doing the Boom book, but we were still trying to like get it out there and let people know this book is available. And I don't think anybody was reading it. Like we were going in like 10 issues deep, and then you know you slowly start getting a trickle of people like paying attention. But for me, like, you know, art is my life. Like, just drawing your sketchbook every day or like posting images. And, you know, it's wild, like, even being up here with you guys, like, knowing that, you know, Sanford knew about my book or something, or, you know, sitting beside Brian Stelfreeze. Like, you know, it's a lot of work, and the main thing is just to focus on that and what you love, and the other stuff will, like, come if you, like, stay at it.
Yeah, I was always under the impression that, I mean, I was going to do comics.
Yeah.
And even if I had my regular job doing whatever that was going to be, I was going to be doing comics also.
Yeah.
And then when I got to the point where I could just do comics, I was just like, oh, how confused.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like Sanford said. I mean, I can make a lot more money doing other stuff, but I can't have as much fun.
Yeah.
You know, doing anything else. It's just a blast.
Comics is one of those unique mediums where pretty much every day they go to work, like it's like their work is documented and it's published and sent out to millions of people. Like I'm sure Brian or Chris or Sanford can turn to a page in one of their books and says, well, I was doing that on a Tuesday. Like basically every day their work is documented and published to millions of people. So it's kind of they're doing it out in the public where everyone can see, and it's comics, especially drawing comics and painting comics. It's like every day you're responsible for doing a page, and like they said about putting your best foot forward, like I don't think you even send out resumes to get a job in comics. They pretty much look at the comics you've done and say if you want to do more. So like,
yeah, they don't care about your degree or anything like that. And another weird thing about comics is I did commercial illustration and architectural illustration before I got into doing comics. And with the commercial illustration that I would do like a ski boot or a telephone or something like that. And it's a ski boot, you know, and hopefully you look at it and go, man, I desire ski boots. but at the same time, no one cared who drew that ski boot. You know, they might want to go, maybe I know ski boots. I'm going to go for that.
Yeah.
But like, no one even looked for the artist's name or anything. And the first convention I went to, it was weird because people had bought the comic book that I drew, and people who didn't know me were coming up and saying, "We like this."
Yeah.
So and you know, I think as an artist, we all have these crazy fragile egos. So it was like kind of cool to kind of have the public acknowledge that you're doing.
And it's person to person too, like being able to sit in front of that person, they're like, I went out and bought your book and now I'm here, please sign it. Like, that's a great thing.
And it's storytelling. You know, it's like to me, I think commercial illustration is a bastardization of true illustration. True illustration is storytelling. I mean, even when you look at the Sistine Chapel and a lot of the Renaissance stuff, they didn't have TV. So they kind of go, well, we don't have TV. Let's go see, you know, let's see some Giotto paintings.
Yeah.
You know, let's see some Michelangelo's David. You know, let's go by and check that out. That was their storytelling, where they look at that stuff and go, man, God must be awesome. You know, it's kind of cool to be like, you know, the guys carrying the Olympic torch.
Yeah. I know a lot of guys that work in industries that, you know, for the lack of better words, and I think it's safe to say, you know, the band members, I think we're doing okay, you know, in terms of our careers. We're working for, you know, the biggest publisher, in my opinion, and they're treating us well. But even if we weren't working for these guys, we'd be right here, you know, we'd still be drawing these comics. And I know a lot of people in animation, video game design, they all want to do comics. They all want to do it. Yeah. On some level, you know, at the end of the day, they want to have that ability to tell a story. They don't really have that ability to do that when they're doing something like a ski boot, because essentially that's what they're doing. That's the equivalent of what they're doing in animation. A lot of people think, oh, I get to animate. Animation is not a glorious job.
Oh, no.
Not at all. I mean, you have to be Brad Bird. You know, if you guys are familiar with his name, his name's at the top of the marquee for The Incredibles. Everyone else, small print, and they're the guys that did everything that Brad Bird told them to do to give him the big name. That's it.
Yeah, and that's crazy because those are the guys that said, hey man, the laces, that was me.
I did the cleanup on the eyebrow of the third character in the back of the crowd. You know, it's like, it's that nuanced. And, you know, I go to a ton of conventions, we all do, and we meet a lot of these other artists, and they're still artists, but they don't have the opportunity to expand their craft like how we do. And, you know, that's something that it means more to us from that angle than the monetary side.
Well, the cool thing that I like is if you're working in animation, and quite frankly, if you're working in just about any other drawing medium, you're subject to whatever that medium requires you. And particularly if you're working in animation, there is a person that comes up with the style, and they design the style guide, and you have to subject yourself to that style guide. Mm-hmm. So how your vision, what you want to do, that is put aside while you do that. And I like the fact that I can, you know, when I looked at the vision piece, I was just like, is that Chris? Oh, come on. And it's really cool that you have your own unique voice, your own unique style, and you're allowed to do that. And you're actually hired because you do that.
Right.
You're hired specifically, like, it's kind of nice that, like, with a character like Batman, if you gave Batman to the three of us, you get 3 different Batman characters. But it's all
Maybe 4 or 5, you never know.
yeah, it's all cool. And
Yeah.
Sanford's Batman is Sanford's Batman, and that's cool. And that the comic book industry allows us that flexibility to basically go, and it's kind of weird. A lot of times when I get hired to do something, the first thing I do is go, well, how do I make this mine?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
how do I, what's going to be my, like even with Black Panther, I was just like, what's going to be my take on Black Panther? You know, how am I going to, you know, because I want people to look at it and not go, oh, that's Black Panther. I want people to go, oh, that's Brian's Black Panther.
The tech that's Brian's Black Panther. When I saw the tech, I was like, yep, Brian just owned Black Panther now. And no one can't do tech anymore any other way because he has made it this, and you know, it's incredible to design it. It's such a great design.
It's cool to be a part of that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, it's evocative. Like when you say Walt Simonson's Thor,
Oh, yeah.
that just brings like something special. When you say, you know, Frank Miller's Daredevil, you know, boom, that just brings up a whole, that guy's name is attached with that quality of work.
I'm going to share something. I think that's something with, you know, kind of, I guess, bringing it back a little more to the Marvel aspect. What's really cool about us being there now is that we can hopefully create that kind of stamp, the Frank Miller stamp, the, you know, Walt Simonson stamp for this era, for this generation, for this genre. You know, you know, just being honest, you know, the diversity in comics now it's insane, the amount of diversity. I mean, just looking in this room, you know, 5 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago, maybe not this diverse. You know, it was starting, and I remember when we were talking about, you know, when they wanted to launch a lot of the titles, they were sharing with me and a few other people what they wanted to do and how they wanted to bring things in. I told them, I was like, I can guarantee you there's an audience. There's going to be an audience for Power Man and Iron Fist, the way that we're going to do it. There's going to be an audience for the way Black Panther is going to be portrayed. It's going to be an audience for Chris, his style, his approach to things. It's not the old guard anymore necessarily. Even for that, there's room for that still. I think that was the biggest thing that made me excited about working, not only being able to work on the book that I grew up with, but to work on it for this era, you know, to bring in usher in this new audience. And it gave me all the confidence in the world. I think 5 years ago, I might have been really insecure about that because I don't know, are they gonna like it? That's the first thing, you know, you shared something earlier, Brian. You know, we're super, if you hadn't noticed, our egos get bruised real easy, you know. Maybe not, but at the same time, we're out there. You know, we just prepare our souls and say, here you go. You can step all over it, you can hug it, you can, you know, ignore it even. And we have to be okay with all of that in a lot of ways and still create at a high level. That's really hard to do, but it's even harder when you don't get that support.
Yeah.
You know, it's super hard when you don't get, and I think to some degree we've all been there, and that was at a place where the industry wasn't really directed the way. Now I feel like it's in a good place to where these books, the influences and the interpretations of these characters, there's enough, you know, to spread, you know, the seeds as far as blind as possible. I mean, you don't even necessarily have to, you know, Marvel, to some degree, and even DC, to some degree, they really are starting to look at all this indie stuff and they're going, you know, there is something really happening, something magical happening here. It was kind of taboo to work in the indie scene a few years ago because it meant you weren't good enough. I said it earlier, you weren't good enough to be in the, you know, the big two or whatever. But now it's kind of like that's the place to be. You know, is working. I think you know that's the reason why Chris's opportunity came, is because he had this voice that was so unique, and it was almost like I don't really need you, Marvel. I'm not.
Yeah.
Taking, you know, yeah, I need Marvel. I don't know, you know, but you know, but it came across that way. If he was to stay on his create on, you know, book forever, I think he would have been all right because he got to do what he loved to do, you know. And I think that's what happens with a lot of creators for the big companies. They can tell those who are confident in who they are and what they stand for and what they do, and that makes them gravitate towards it. They're kind of like, oh, look at me, please, you know.
Well,
You know.
like with both DC and Marvel, I mean, it's almost like I feel a lot of times that I get treated like a battered wife, where like I'll work for DC and Marvel and I'll just go, man, I'm just pissed off. Then I'll go do an independent book and they'll go, oh honey, we love you.
Yeah. Come on home. Come back home.
I promise I'll be good.
Yeah.
I'll offer you more. Come on. And then I'll go back and then eventually it's like,
Pick it up again. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and it's weird that you talk about diversity. The book that I'm working on right now, not only would this book have not been done maybe 4 years ago, I don't think I would have done this book maybe 8 years ago. I think I would have looked at this and went, oh, no way. It's just like, wait, first issues, there's going to be like lesbians kissing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm out. But like, it's really weird to see like the zeitgeist just sort of expand and include so much more people in, and some of these smaller stories are becoming writ large. So it's kind of like, wow, this is really cool, and it's great being a part of it.
Well, I think sometimes too, it like takes the industry or the head of whatever to see it happen, and then they're like, oh, that is cool, let's give that a chance. Because I know for like many years, I went to New York Comic Con, I stood in those lines, and they're like, oh, drop your portfolio off here, and we'll set up a meeting with you, and blah, blah, blah. And every year, like, nothing. It's just like you got lost in the sea of the books. And I would go as far as like making a book, making it look like a comic book, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool, you better see that. And I think one year I just kind of got like fed up, and I think I went downstairs to where I knew they were having the meetings, and I think I just missed like a portfolio drop off that one day, so I just went and I was like, listen, I'm from Virginia, I really want to do this, if someone can just look at my portfolio, give me some input, that would be great, and I'll leave. We won't have any problems, not gonna flip the table. So, but I said it really nicely, and
He wasn't BAM just yet.
I wasn't BAM just yet.
That
I
was
had my BA.
Yeah.
So if someone could look at my portfolio, I'll put away this gun.
I talked with an editor from, I think, Vertigo, and I love telling this story, especially because of just where I'm at now. No hate to Vertigo, but, they looked at my work and they're like, yeah, this is really great. We'll be in touch with you. And they gave me, like, I think a couple pages from American Vampire that they wanted me to do a test of. And I worked those things up, they were like 18 by 24. And I was like, yeah, American Vampire! And I like turned them in, and I think I got a really short thank you. And I was just like, is there another email? Or did I miss something? And I took that a little hard just because I work that hard, but I was like, I'm gonna keep doing art. Like no one's gonna tell me like you can't be an artist, you can't be in comic books. Go away. And luckily, I got around the right people. I joined over Out of Step Arts, which is an art collective. That was a big boost for like my morale as well. My man Tuck, he does a lot of my videos where you know, I'll just go and I'll sit down and we're doing live streams now on Twitch, or just doing like a drawing and he'll like edit the video, put it up on YouTube. You know, we get like 15 likes or something, but just the fact that we were putting out material and just trying to build and being like, all right, I know you don't want me to draw Black Panther, but do a Black Panther video. And oh, you want me to do a Black Panther cover? Oh, cool, let's do that. So it's just like, kind of just like pushing your foot through the door and just making sure that, to let them know like, I'm still here.
And it's a unique way. Now, pushing your foot through the door doesn't necessarily mean going to a portfolio review with a Glock and saying, look.
By the way, I did not do that.
HeroesCon is not endorsed.
The views of the BAM collective. But you don't have to necessarily do that anymore. You can do the video. Here's your way of pushing your foot through the door. Just put up a video of you drawing on YouTube. That's what, you know, the opportunities you have now is to be able to do that kind of thing. And just be consistent with that. You know, of course, the web comic, you hear about stories about doing these web comics and stuff like that. And I can't even tell you how many people that are now doing their comics through Kickstarter and all that stuff now. They're getting their opportunities through other means and being able to create art and do these ambitious projects without really needing validation from the big companies, Marvel, DC, or whatever, you know. And usually, if it's done well and successful, of course, it's going to get eyeballs. Some of those eyeballs will be Marvel and DC.
And a lot of times it's kind of cool that today your average artist has the ability and the opportunity to bring fans to Marvel. I mean, you can actually, with YouTube, with webcomics, you have all these things that you can do where you can literally publish a comic book for free online and probably get more people to look at it than your average independent comic is getting views.
Right.
So, and if you can actually get fans, then Marvel and DC and boom, all the sort of other tiered companies are gonna like look at it, right? And go, wow.
I know for a fact there are many people that follow Power Man Iron Fist that never really bought comics. They love the characters, but they come from a different, you know, set of interests, you know, or at least influences, but they all come under this comic influence. They're into the movies and the music, you know, a lot of the music, all this stuff kind of ties in to, let's just go ahead and we'll talk about this, the Marvel Hip Hop variant cover. So this thing, say it again?
Dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was an article that said, well, how come they didn't get black guys to do it? And I'm like,
that formed the BAM collective right there. We said, guys, we got to let them know that, look, see?
well, my attitude is like, Sanford and I are like the darkest guys in comics.
Yes. Yes. But you know, with that, I told them, I was like, I'm telling you, these guys that they like comics. The people that follow all this stuff, this music, that genre, they are really into comics. Half of the people that make the music rap about comic stuff.
Yeah.
You know, their whole personas are about characters from comic books. You know, DMC.
Some of their names.
Yeah, DMC. He even shared about a story in a podcast I was listening to recently. Half of all those classic songs that you guys might have heard growing up was because of something he read in a Jack Kirby comic book. That's half of his lyrics. The graffiti that you see, you know, throughout, all of it came from influences from a comic book. And I told them, I was like, you're gonna bring in a whole new audience, people that don't read this stuff, you know, now, they're gonna come back to it. You know, not just because of me, but because of, you know, what we can bring. And the more you bring in creators that can, you know, speak that language, the more you're gonna get that audience. Because how can we get more readers? That's the biggest thing. That's the struggle, the eternal struggle. How can we get female readers? How can we get, African Americans? How can we get, whatever you need? You got to bring in creators that can speak the language. And trust me, they're going to follow. They're not going to go, whoa, what's that? I don't know what that is. They're going to be like, oh, I understand. I want to buy this every month. What a concept, to buy a comic book, bring in a new audience, and they buy your stuff every month. So, so far, so good. I mean, it's always an uphill battle because, it's the printed media against the digital page, but at the same time, it's still getting out there. If they get it digitally, so what? As long as they're paying their 99 cents, which I think is kind of crazy, 99 cents for 20 pages. That's another animal. That's another panel. We'll do that one tomorrow. What's wrong with this industry?
But I think what he's talking about speaks to the title of the panel here. We have the Marvel house style, how there's not one house style in terms of the art that is being done. Like I know Chris just finished a Scarlet Witch panel, like a Scarlet Witch book he was sharing with Steve Dillon, completely different styles. Steve Dillon, most famously did Preacher, and Chris Vision's page is right next to it. And they didn't ask Chris Vision to try to be like Steve Dillon. They didn't ask Steve Dillon to be like Chris Vision. That Marvel and the other publishers as well are becoming more okay with having. It's not even contrasting styles. It's just different styles. And that bleeds into the storytelling and the types of books that are being done. Like the Power Man and Iron Fist book that's being done is different than the Iron Fist book that just came out. And that's okay, because that Iron Fist book is still there. It's still in trade. There's different versions of the Black Panther book that have come out, and those are still out there. It's still okay. And it's all, especially now with digital comics. There's, 2,000, 3,000 comic book stores in the United States, but now there's a couple million tablets that can read and buy comics. And they pick them up, and I'm sure Brian will sign those tablets too for you.
If you have like the Black Panther image on the tablet, why on some wallpaper?
There's always a catch.
And it is kind of fun because I'm a huge fan of Jack Kirby, and a lot of what I'm doing in Black Panther is because of Jack Kirby. So the influence that I bring from him. Of course, I'm taking it and I'm pushing it through this like sort of filter.
Stelfreeze filter.
Which comes from me not being like that Brooklyn Jewish guy. So it's kind of like it ends up being in there. Anyone who's a fan of Jack Kirby can see the Jack Kirby in the Panther that I do. But at the same time, I think Sanford said it best. It's like we speak a different language, and I think it's Marvel, and to a certain extent, I think DC's a little bit behind, but they're trying to catch up. Marvel's mentality and DC's mentality has been, well, there's 100,000 comic book fans. How do we get all of them to buy all of our books? By doing as many crossovers and forcing them into not being able to understand it unless they bought the entire line, unless they spend like $400 a week buying comics. But now what they're doing is they're going, maybe we should go for new fans.
And news stories.
Yeah, rather than going for these same 40-year-old bearded white guys.
Yeah.
Let's maybe go for a few girls. Let's maybe go for a few black guys and Spanish people. The weird thing is about like maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, I did a lecture at RISD, the Rhode Island School of Art and Design, which is great art school. And I went up there and I did a lecture, and then after the lecture the next morning, I was doing a workshop. And it's just this huge labyrinthian building that we're kind of going through to get to the room where the workshop is going to be held. And when I got there, the hallway was lined with like 20 girls, just like sitting there, sort of waiting for us to get there. And you know, we open the door, 20 girls flood in, and they're sitting there, you know, sort of ready for the workshop. And I was just like, this is it. I was just like, oh man, girls are going to be taking this industry.
Yeah.
And,
We're
and it was
40-year-old white guys.
Yeah. And it was
Need
weird.
this thing normalized.
Yeah, it was like 30 minutes into it, like, you know, sort of 2 guys showed up, and I was just like, you've lost the job. Too late. Yeah, I was like, you've lost the job, and that told me that probably in the next 3 or 4 years, there's going to be like girls, prominent girls in this industry, and that's what happened. You know, you got girls like Fiona Staples, you know, sort of Rebecca Isaacs, and all these people really just doing some awesome stuff. And so it's kind of cool to see. Like, it's slow, it's like, you know, sort of tectonic, but it's really great to be around and see this diversity.
Oh yeah, I mean, I even saw that. I worked on an issue of Constantine, and they were just like flipping that caricature and trying to bring in a newer audience. I think they were playing with like his sexuality, and they were also playing with different people they met to and bringing in different ethnicities. And you could already see like immediately like that's bringing in a whole new audience. And they're like, oh really? We can change up the story. We have other people who are interested. So yeah.
I will say this about the diversity thing. I think that I'm definitely for diversity, but don't force diversity.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Keep Spider-Man white.
But
keep Spider-Man's eyes white.
I didn't quite mean that. I did mean that. I didn't mean that, but I meant that. If that makes sense. It's like, okay, we have the opportunity to create diversity, then just give us the total package. Don't try to, you know, shoehorn this character's, you know, origin with some whole new thing.
Yeah.
Give us a brand new character. What's wrong with having a brand new character? I mean, even like a character like Ms. Marvel. I mean, her name is Ms. Marvel, but it's essentially a whole new character. It's not Carol Danvers or I forgot the name of the other. Yeah, you know, it's not. But so it feels like a brand new character who happens to be named Ms. Marvel because you still have these other characters. And to some degree, I do think Miles Morales is a whole new character. Yeah, he's Spider-Man, but it feels like another character. But you know, you get these other characters they have these origins, and you just flip them for the sake of, hey, this is the first character now. You know, it's like,
I mean, if you think about it, like, you know, Black Panther, which we celebrate now and is on the movie screen now, at a certain point not too long ago, he was a new character.
yeah.
And like, that was like a risk that people were taking. It's like that time where, you know, we don't need another 50 years of Batman. Even though I love Batman, like, bring out a new character that has a new story that can have like something new to approach. And, you know, 30 some odd years later, or 40 some odd years later, that character might be on the screen or faster, obviously.
Yeah, you know, and there's nothing wrong with having a new character altogether. I mean, yeah, Marvel has 72,000 characters at their disposal. Let that sink in. And what's wrong
Only
with
50 of them are good.
Yeah. 50 as in 50.
I've got that like DC encyclopedia, with that thick like Bible of characters, and I'm like, who was reading Tattoo Man? Really?
I didn't cover for that.
Oh, sorry.
You got one person there.
Ratatouille Man, that's what I meant. Yeah.
But I totally back you up on that. You know, like I was at a signing, and these guys were basically going, hey, how about Idris Elba as the new James Bond? Come on, man. And I'm like, dudes, let's solve the problem with black guys getting shot. Let's solve the problem of Ferguson. Let's solve all these other problems before we go to solving the problem of black James Bond. You know, it's just really not worth it. You know, it's just like, let's create new characters from the ground up to be diverse, rather than taking a character that pre-exists. Like if someone decided, hey, let's do the white Black Panther. We would all be offended.
Yeah.
If they decided.
They technically do have one though. You know about that? What's the name of the White Tiger? Yeah. No, not White Tiger, but they're sorry, no, Casper Cole. Casper Cole. Yeah. You gotta tell Tommy Hossie you better start digging, man. Yeah. Trust me, they already tried that.
I just recently had to deal with Manny.
You guys aren't uncomfortable, are you?
We're going to go ahead and switch to audience questions. Let's try. We got to get out of here right at 5 for DMC. We're the opening act for DMC.
Oh, really? Let's stick around.
So let's just try to keep it orderly. Just stand up and raise your hand, and I'll point to you. We'll go from there.
This